Today we're going to replace the laptop screen on an Acer Aspire 4330. First thing, always make sure the battery is removed. You don't want any power. Second, all you need are two small screwdrivers, a regular and a Phillips screwdriver. First thing, using the regular screwdriver, remove the 4 bezel screws covers. These are just glued on. Always have a soft working place, so when the small screws get away from your hand, you can find them. Then undo the 4 bezel screws. And we'll pause here while I undo the other 3. Okay, we now have the 4 bezel screws removed. We're ready to take off the bezel. You ought to be able to do this with your fingers. Just slide them under the top and it just simply pops off. If it's a little difficult, you may use the regular head screwdriver to get it started. Work it around the edge, and then when you get to the bottom, you want to carefully remove it helps if you open the screen all the way and then remove the bezel from the hinges. Place the bezel off to the side. The next thing is to remove the 2 bracket screws at the bottom. Here's one. Now you'll want to support the back of the screen cover at this point because it's unrestrained. And then it's helpful to put a cloth here because you're going to fold this down. Get this screw out here. Okay, so fold this down and the cover can remain off. And then the next thing you're going to do is disconnect the screen. There are 2 connection points. One is the main cable. There's a little tape flap here that you have to undo and then remove that. And then the LED backlight unplugs here. I'm going to redo that with this in the camera shot now. The tape cover flips up here, and then this cable simply unplugs, and then there's one other cable right here that just unplugs there, and then you're ready to remove the screen. There are 8 small screws on the side attaching the screen to the bracket. Remove all 8 of those, and I'll pause here while I do that. Make sure you support the screen while you're removing the screws. Okay, now that all of the 8 bracket screws are removed, we're ready to take the old screen out, and it just simply pulls away. Then you have the new screen. The new screen will usually have some sort of protective coating on it. Leave that there until everything's assembled. The best way to do this is, again, to have a soft cloth, line it up with the holes, and then you'll need to carefully screw in the new screen while supporting it with the bracket at the same time so as not to bend the brackets. But once you get 1 or 2 screws in, everything should be okay. As always, be careful not to over tighten the screws. And we'll pause here while I do the other 6 screws. Okay, now that all 8 bracket screws have been reinstalled, it's time to hook up the cable. Again, lift the tape, line it up with the connection, and simply insert. It's not a very extensive fit. And then this one goes back here. There's only one way that this cable is inserted, so take care not to jam it. And it should fit in like that. Then you're ready to reassemble the bracket to the cover. So there are guides at the bottom, just 2 pins that go in the middle holes here, the 2 bracket screws, and this is one of the more common problems. Is the screw going someplace you don't want it to? Not a problem, just shake it out the back. Try again. Okay. So there are 2 screws. The outer one's for the bezel, the inner one is for the hinge bracket. So we'll put the inner one in first. And then the same on the other side. And then make sure that the data cable is aligned in the track. It keeps it from getting caught up in the hinge. Got to do that before you put the bezel back on. And there. And there. And then you're ready to put the bezel on. Again, if you've got the cover open as far as it'll go, that makes it easier to snap this in on the hinges. Before you do this, now it's time to take the protective covering off. Okay. And you can just tear the tape right at the edge. It'll tear right off on the bracket. Nice shiny new screen. And it just snaps into place. So work it all around. And if you look from the middle in on the edges, you can tell if there's an area where it's not snapped. And then the final thing is to reinstall the 4 bezel screws. Like so, and then these ought to just stick right back on. If they don't, you can always add a little bit of glue to it, and then you're done. Put the battery back in, turn it on, and hope it works.